Welcome in, Slumpbusters. This is your boy Kyle, and we are back with another YouTube quick hitter in the middle of our NFL football Sunday, right in the middle of the witching hour, by the way. Not great witching hour, but right in the middle of the witching hour, we get the bombshell news that Lincoln Riley is leaving the University of Oklahoma for not the LSU head coaching job, which is still unfilled, not the head coaching job at the University of Florida, which went to Billy Napier, the USC head coaching job. Lincoln Riley is leaving the Big 12, leaving the SEC, after in years past, he turned down the opportunity to coach the Dallas Cowboys, to coach the Cleveland Browns, obviously to coach LSU this time around, when yesterday during his post-game press conference, he was adamant that he was not going to leave Oklahoma for LSU. He turned down all of those jobs and ultimately took the USC job, which on a surface level seems like it might be a worse job than even LSU or an NFL head coaching job. Not that USC is a terrible job at all. USC has one of the highest revenue generators in all of college football. They are one of the two programs, along with Oregon, west of about Oklahoma and Texas, that can actually be a legitimate national powerhouse in college football because of the resources they have for that program. USC is not a bad job. It's just comparatively to what Lincoln Riley could have had in the past. But the last 2 years have been kind of rough on Lincoln Riley. I think he was at his peak in terms of value when he had the Heisman Trophy years of Kyler Murray and Baker Mayfield, and a second place Heisman Trophy for Jalen Hurts in 2019. 2020, he had Austin Kendall at quarterback, a non-remarkable COVID season. They did end up winning the Big 12 championship, but it was a weird year where they lost a couple of games and they kind of won on a backdoor win because a couple of teams started falling apart. And then this year, obviously, you go from Spencer Rattler to Caleb Williams and all of the chaos that existed at Oklahoma this year that culminated in Oklahoma almost losing to Kansas. And obviously, they lost to Oklahoma State. They won't make it to the Big 12 championship game. Maybe we don't know all the information around this situation, that there's something going on under the surface at Oklahoma that we don't know. The context for this move, I keep thinking of the Jimbo Fisher move from Florida State to Texas A&M, where Jimbo Fisher was falling out of love with the athletic director and was pushing up against boosters at Florida State, and ultimately decided that for a slight pay raise to make him a top 5-10 highest paid coach in college football, that Jimbo Fisher would go to Texas A&M with the SEC level of expectations, go 8-4 a bunch of seasons, not really be a national powerhouse, but at least keep Texas A&M stable. Jimbo Fisher took that job and left Florida State, a program that then fell into shambles. So maybe there's something behind the surface we don't know. Maybe Lincoln Riley has issues with Oklahoma and the Oklahoma boosters are in a poor place, although universally regarded a very good athletic director at Oklahoma, one of the best in the country. Even still, Lincoln Riley passed on that job. There's obviously going to be the connection made to him moving to the SEC and the SEC level of expectations. I honestly don't think that people think that way in terms of like, well, I think the challenge is going to be significantly difficult for me, and therefore I'd like to go to the Pac-12 and Los Angeles and that recruiting base. I don't think that that's what ends up happening on Lincoln Riley, just because it seems like an easy conclusion. It seems too simple to draw the line to Oklahoma's moving to the SEC, therefore Lincoln Riley didn't want the challenge. It seems way too conventional to be the case. There's probably information we don't know for why Lincoln Riley now wanted to move, or in a certain aspect, why Lincoln Riley left for a job some people might view as lesser than the Cleveland Browns, the Dallas Cowboys, the LSU Tigers, or even the Florida Gators. It's an interesting dichotomy. Obviously, one of the things we've been talking about in this college recruiting cycle is a lot of jobs from programs we've seen win recently. Not that they're dominant programs now, but we've seen success recently, whether that's Florida winning 2 national championships in the 2000s, Miami winning multiple national championships in the 2000s, USC winning multiple national championships in the 2000s. Obviously, the University of Texas last year, and talks about Sarkisian leaving again this year and next year. Programs like this are in interesting places where they're trying to find those types of moves. And it's interesting to look at USC deciding, we are going to spend big, even though we don't know the details of the contract right now. Lincoln Riley was already making $7.5 million a year at Oklahoma. USC decided we're going to make the big move here to try and get back into national prominence after they hired Steve Sarkisian, Lane Kiffin, and Clay Helton as their last three coaches post Pete Carroll. We are going to make the big splashy move and hope that that turns into something and tie ourselves to this coach for potentially the next decade, similarly to what Texas A&M did with Jimbo, similarly to what Michigan State just did this week with Mel Tucker. We're going to lock ourselves into this guy for the next 10 years instead of, waiting the 4 years, seeing if it's going to work out, then extending them later. We are locked into this guy, and it's interesting to see them spend big while at the same time Florida goes the alternative route. They hired Dan Mullen before, and now this time around they went for the relatively unknown group of five coach from Louisiana Lafayette. It's an interesting change in a year where so many jobs are available, and it looks like USC got the best of the options. Whether or not Lincoln Riley the last 2 years have lowered the lust on him a little bit is another question to be had, but I assume this will be a 10-year contract. I assume the buyouts won't be available for about 5 or 6 years, similarly to what the Jimbo situation was at Texas A&M. Lincoln Riley has found a permanent home. That seems to be the case here, at least for the next decade of his coaching career. And if that wasn't going to be Oklahoma, if he felt instability about moving to the SEC or instability about just his job status in Oklahoma, so be it on that point for him to pick up and move his things out to the West Coast and really, like I said a second ago, find a home permanently for Lincoln Riley. I don't think Lincoln Riley is going to be moving jobs in the meantime very soon. This is probably going to make him one of the 3 or 4 highest paid coaches in college football. USC for the next decade, or at least 5 to 10 years, is probably a forever home for Lincoln Riley now. And that's really, really interesting because I did not see that coming, not from Lincoln Riley's standpoint, not from leaving Oklahoma standpoint, or from USC making the big splashy hire in a year where a lot of programs are trying to make big splashy hires. Make sure to check out the Slumpbuster podcast from last week with myself and Juju Talk Sports. Check out our segments throughout the week for the NFL preview. I got power rankings dropping this week over on the Slumpbuster social media channels. You can check that out as well. And check out our partners over at the Caveman Coffee Company. Use the link in the description to this YouTube video to get a 15% discount on your purchase of delicious cold brew coffee.